Last time I believe I talked about the homework. And so this will be the last homework. You'll have a final project. You'll have a final. Those will be due, well, final project will be due finals week. The final will be on the final, whatever time that is. Were there any questions on it? Yes.
What's the row and index stuff? How's that supposed to work?
All right, so the user is entering a number. So that's the index into the array. So remember, indexes start at 0. So the data at index 0 for all of these different arrays, right? So you're going to need an array for each one of these. So this is index 0. This would be index 1. And this is index 2. So I think I have a different input. I think this should have been a 2. Enter a number. That's messed up. That's what that should say. I think I had 2 different runs, and I think I copy pasted one part. Anyway, so they enter the index 1, right? So it prints off the information for index 1. So you will have to do two calculations, right? Miles per gallon and dollars per mile. So you need to do those calculations. So I'll fix the example because there should be one more row in this. I don't know why it's off. Yes.
And is the user supposed to enter in all the numbers, all the index stuff?
Yeah. So the user enters how many entries in the array they want, and then you have to enter that times 3 number of things, right? So you should have a loop that goes around it. It should check and make sure that they don't enter garbage, right? So that's part of it. Yeah, there's a couple other things I'll fix. But you're going to need at least 5 different arrays, right? Mileage, gallons, price per gallon, miles per gallon, and dollars per mile, right? Which are things you're going to do. And then you'll create a CSV output for that, right? So using the file writer, we've shown that in class. All of the examples that I've done in class should be on Box. So if you have any questions on those, we went through them. Also the videos. I think I've had one video this semester that didn't record, so I know that one isn't up there, but I think that was on methods. So otherwise, all the videos from class should be on YouTube. So if you don't remember what I said, you can go back and look. Okay. You should probably start earlier than later. I say that for everything. Any other questions? You guys are like not very excitable today. We just need a good dad joke. Everything would be better. Okay. You guys are. I think I need to. See, I have a bag of candy here, so if you ask a good question, I'll throw the bag at you, and then you can pick out something. It'll be stress relief all the way around.
What do you call a pony with a sore throat?
A horse?
A little horse.
A little horse. A pony with a sore throat. Yeah, my son likes to tell this joke over and over again. Why was the coffee so strong? Because it did the French press. He thinks it's funny. And then if you say something else, he's like, no, that's totally wrong.
What does an annoying pepper do?
What does an annoying pepper do? I don't know.
It gets jalap in your face.
It gets All up in your face. Okay, see? Everybody's smiling. It's good. Okay. We're going to do some learning here. All right, so chapter 7, they're talking about arrays. We talked about it. We've talked about it a couple times, given a few examples. So if we have an array, and let me go grab, see, we had our fancy get double method here that we had defined before. So I'm just going to beg, borrow, and steal. All right, so I'll keep that. I do like the code folding, right? So I don't want to look at the innards of this, so I can just collapse it. I think most of the IDEs do that. So I can see that I have a method called getDouble that takes a scanner prompt and a min and a max for the array. So in my main, generally, right, we've done this like 1,000 times. All right, created a scanner. So, one of the things that you're going to have to do is you're going to have to dynamically or on the fly allocate your array. Right? So that's what dynamic means, is that it's not static. I'm not creating 17 variables for a program that takes 17 inputs. I'm asking the user how many I need and then allocating that number. So, for example, if I can type. So I can read an integer from the user as to, let's say, how many elements in an array they would like. And then I could allocate an array of that size. So my function here is called getDouble. So let's assume that we're going to read your grades from a class. So for example, for the midterm, let's say we read in all of the grades of all of the different users, and we wanted to figure out what the average of those grades was. So I can allocate an array grades. I'll probably get this backwards because I usually do.
The brackets go after
So honestly, in Java, I never end up using arrays of this type. And we'll talk about the other ones here in a second. But so if I have an array of doubles, right, the size here tells me how big I want that array to be, right? So the user says there are 34 people in the class, which I believe 34 or 35 is how many are in this class, right? I would have 34 or 35 different entries in my array, right, going from 0 to 33. So what I could do is I could, right here, write my code that would go and fill that array with all of the data that I want. But we've talked about in class how, right, the best way to do it is to write methods that do the different parts that you want, and then your main just sort of pieces those different methods together. So I can write a method that will get the inputs from the user. And it's not going to be very complicated, but it'll illustrate a couple of different things. Get grades. Now, one of the things that I need to be able to do is I need to be able to put data into my array. So I'm going to have an array of doubles. I'll just call it G. Again, to illustrate the fact that the argument that I put in for the method call can be different than what is in my main method. Again, lots of students have trouble with that. So I have an array called G, and I want to go through and fill it with the appropriate number of grades. So how would I what type of mechanism would I use in order to do something over and over again? For loop, okay. For int I equals 0, I is less than something. Oh, it just so happens that an array has a method called length. Super, right? So length says how big that array is. Right? And then inside of here, we can call get double, right? Well, it looks like we need a reference to our scanner, so maybe our get grades needs a reference to our scanner. So now I'm calling it Tom. Right, again, you can name it whatever you want. You don't like my non-descriptive names, you can call it scanner, you can call it keyboard, whatever it is that you want. All right, so get double. It takes a scanner. Okay, I got a reference to my scanner. A prompt. Okay, enter the grade. And then a minimum and a maximum. So get double. So my scanner is not called Fred, it's called Tom, right? So Tom becomes Fred. It's like we're just changing. All right. Enter a grade. Okay, and what is your minimum on a test?
0.
Hopefully 0, yes. That's the maximum. Okay, we'll go with 100 on this. It could be more if there's extra credit. I give in test extra credit, like making you pick a joke, right? That's like 5 free points. So I gave everybody 5 points. All right, so I get a double, but I need to save it where? In the array. Okay, you can be done talking. Somebody else answer. So where would I save that? Oh, here. See? You get a piece of candy. You get one, but if I get mad at you, then I can throw it harder than I should. So, woo! Okay. Somebody else. How would I save it into my array? I'm starting to feel like the guy from Ferris Bueller's Day Off that keeps talking and nobody's.
Assign it to a variable, and then do like a double bracket, the variable name equals.
Okay, you're on the right track, right? So I want to do some assignment here. What is my array called? G. And then how do I access or assign some value at some index inside that array?
In this case, what you use like the brackets and then I, because I is what we're increasing here.
Yep, I is going from 0, right? It's starting at index 0, index 1, index 2, index 33, right? So does this make sense to everybody, right? I'm saving into that array that value that I'm getting from get double. Right? So get double, you can think of it as a black box. I don't care how it works, right? It gets me a double. That's between 0 and 100, and it prints the prompt, enter a grade, right? I have to pass it my scanner, but that's what it does, right? We don't care how it works. So that returns us a double. So we have a double as a result, and then we can save that by using the equals into the array. The name of the array is called G. Right? So with any variable, you have to use its name, right? So we use its name, and then we give it an index, and the way to give an index inside an array is using the brackets. Okay? So let's say we wanted to write a method to print the grades. Public static print grades. So what do I need as an argument? If I want to print all the things in an array, what do I need?
Set up another array.
Well, I don't set up an array, right? I'm only setting up an array here, right? Creating. All right, we'll go by row. Back row. You guys get the ability to answer here. So, somebody from the back row, what do I need if I'm going to print off an array of doubles? Go ahead.
If you're gonna print it, you need to do a loop.
Okay, so I'm going to need a loop, but what argument do I need? What should I type inside those parentheses? Dragon, you got a guess? No guess? There's only 4 of you. One of you's got to get it right. Well, I'll wait for you. Somebody can pick it out. You don't know? Come on. What did we use in Get Grades? Yes?
The double bracket G.
Sure. We can call it G. We call grades. And maybe grades is more descriptive. Okay. Second to back row, you get the next one. And you got a little bit of help. So now what do I need to do if I want to print off all of the grades? Take a guess. If it's wrong, nobody cares. You'll get a free piece. Oh, all right. Let's see if I can hit the back row. Oh, look at that. You might as well keep it because you don't have to steal it. We're gonna keep. I gotta get rid of that candy. It's not old or anything. It's totally tasty.
Not suspicious.
I don't know what you're talking about. I do not know the exact age of that candy. Nor do I know the exact age of any candy. Okay, so what do I need to do? Take a guess. I want to print all of the grades that are in an array. Any guesses?
Can you like assign them to a string and print out the string?
Okay, but how do I go through all of them? Yes.
For int I equals 0, I is less than size. Would you do that and then I plus 1? Or
I is less than grades. So I think, let's see, size. I don't think there's a size in that one. And then what do I need to do? What?
No, print it.
Print it? Yeah. So I could do system dot out dot format. Let's see, this is percent F, I think, for a float. So I'll print off the index, which is I, and then grades, bracket I. Okay. So I have a way of getting all my grades and loading them into my array. I have a way of printing all of my grades. So we can just call these methods. So how would I call those methods?
Just get grades. G, they'll want to be grades. And then S.
S, right? Because S, well, let's see. Grades, comma S, yeah. All right, so grades is my array. It has to be first in get grades. And then we have our scanner. Our scanner inside of main is called S, right? Which then when you are inside of here, you're thinking of it as Tom. Right? Tom is a terrible name, but that's what I decided to call it. Tom the turkey. All right, so that's going to load the grades, and then somebody else, how would I print the grades?
Print grades.
Print grades. Okay. So let's try this with a short number of grades.
You need to change the get grades to G to the grade.
No, so you got to use the name that is within main, right? So the name of my variable within main is called grades. Yep. So that's a lot of times I'll name them the same things when I'm actually programming, but again, like a lot of students get it confused that I should just name it the same everywhere, and that's not the case, right? I can name all these different things for it. So great. So let's have 100, 90, 60, 40. All right, so there I've got my grades. Okay, all stored in my array. So my array has 5 entries in it. Now, one of the things that, so we had talked about previously, right, if I have a variable, x, right, and I pass it into a method, if I modify x, right, I'm modifying a copy of that, right? You notice here, we had an array which is declared here, and then inside of these methods, right, get grades, I modified that. Now, so technically, again, when I'll put on my computer science hat, if I had it, but it's cold out, so I didn't bring my decal hat. So, right, technically what it does is you have what's called a pointer. All right, so this pointer is like, if you think of an envelope, writing an address on an envelope, right? So if I write an address on an envelope, 6890 Evergreen Road, right? That is not 6890 Evergreen Road. That points to me being at 6890 Evergreen Road, right? So when I pass in, when I have the thing called grades, it actually just points to that array. And so inside of my method, I'm copying the thing that points to it. It's called a pointer, right? In my junior, and senior level classes, right, we get to deal with pointers all the time, right? They're abstracted away and that you don't have to deal with them when we're in Java for the most part. But in this example, when I pass in grades, I'm passing in that address. And it might be something like 0x 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That might be the address, right? It's 32 or 64 bits that exist within it, but it's an address and it points to an area of memory where all of these things live, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? So that's where all of my data actually lives. So that's how I can modify it, right? Within my method, like get grades, I can modify the data that's in the array, right? But I'm not modifying the pointer to the array. Now I could say g is equal to something else inside my method, and then it would point to something else, but that wouldn't do me any good, right? So it doesn't make any sense. But that's what I could do, right? So from a computer science standpoint, right, it's just a pointer, and that's how we can get away with being able to modify the data that's within that array. All right? And then because I am a good computer scientist, I'd like to figure out what is the average for my class, right? So maybe we write a method that gets us an average for this midterm so I can see how well did I do. For example, I think the average on the midterm that you actually got done taking was about a 72, I think was the average. Right, and that includes people who got zeros, right? If you don't include those, it's a higher number. And people who decided not to attend the final or midterm. All right, so here we're going to go ahead and we can write a method that gets an average. And what return type would getAverage have? Right, it would return a double, right? Because I'm calculating, I'm adding up all of the elements that are in the array, and then I divide it by how many elements I have. And I can't spell very well. It's a good thing my children got my wife's spelling genes. My daughter did not miss a spelling word on a spelling test until like the second to last test that she took in 5th grade. I, on the other hand, missed a lot of spelling words. So I'll call it something else. Super. All right. So how do you think we would go about doing this? How would we figure out the average? What is the process? Yes.
You have to get the total of all the grades.
Okay. So if I start at 0, somebody else, how would I go through and add up all of the grades in the array?
Grade bracket 0 plus grade bracket 1.
Okay. Right, so you're right. I want to go through grade 0, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. I want to go through all of them. So I might use a for loop to go through all of the grades, and I have a different name. Okay. So I want to take the total, and I want to take my previous total from all of the previous indexes, and I want to add my next one. So my grades, come on, bracket I. All right, so my previous total starts off at 0. I take and I add the 0 thing, so now I have, in my example below, I have 100, right? 0 plus 100 is 100. And then, now total is 100. Next iteration through the loop, I is 1. I add 90, so 100 plus 90, I can do that math. 190. I'm getting to my territory here. So let's see. 190 is my total. Then I need to do bracket 2. I is 2. So now 190 plus 60, that's 250. I might make it. All right. I is 3. 250 plus 40, 290. Okay, so now I get to the end. Right, total is 290. So then what would the average be? Okay, so it's total divided by the number of elements, which is my grades dot length. We did add 0 at the end. I forgot about that one. Okay. So I take total and I divide it by the length. That will give me a result. And then what do I do with my result? Return it, right? Now, I could be a little bit more efficient with my code here, and I could just say return and do that all in one statement there. Right? Because it's doing the calculation, it returns the whatever the result of doing this expression, right, or math equation. Right? So you do that, you get some result, and you return it. So now I can average and it's called grades. So I have 5 people, 100, 90, what did I say, 60?
40 and 0.
All right, so that gives me an average of 58. All right, yes.
Why did it say invalid input to begin with, right after you?
So the reason it does that is it reads that blank line after I hit enter for the 5. So that it left it there. It's kind of an annoyance, but yeah. So it read basically nothing until I entered the next thing. So that's why it did do that.
How would you fix that?
How would you fix that? So I believe and let's debug it. Okay, so my first input is how many I want. So I hit 5. Oop. Down here, 5. So let's step over this. So we can see that at this point, right, L is empty. Right, so if you wanted to take that into account, then basically you can say something like this: while L dot is empty, and then you could read a new line. That's one way. You could do another where you do an if around it to try and capture that. And so there's a couple different ways to do this. Right, so if L is empty, then it basically reads another line, which hopefully L is not empty again. So it'll basically just ignore empty lines. So now if we run it, let me stop it here. See, it ignores my empty line. 60. There we go. Yeah, this is always sort of annoying feature of a lot of different scanners, is that they will actually leave the cursor on a new line, and then you end up reading data that's not there. My my students who are in assembly and operating systems learn this early on, and we talk about it a lot. So, okay. Other questions? All right, so next time we're going to talk about array lists, which are also in Chapter 7. A little bit of objects, but it's arrays, but better.